The day I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, I took a selfie from my obituary. My only request was that they Photoshop a smile on my face. Because my family forbids me to smile. My mom hates me for killing her youngest daughter. She says my very existence disgusts her. My dad screamed at me saying he wanted to sever all ties with me. My brother despises me even more. He says I'm bad luck and tells me to die somewhere far away. So I wouldn't take the family now I'm about to die. And for the first time I can finally smile freely. On my 18th birthday I was diagnosed with brain cancer. After wandering the streets for hours I walked into a photo studio and took a picture for my obituary. My only condition was that I had to smile. 2 hours later the guy working on the photos looked troubled. Seemingly giving up on perfection and resignedly said, "Sis, my skills only go this far. I can only make it like this, what do you think?" I glanced at the screen, where my face looked stiff with an awkward smile, and replied emotionlessly, "It's no good. It was so ugly. It was better not to smile at all." The guy had no choice but to call the shop owner who was sleeping upstairs to help. "Simon's the best at this. He'll make it look great." I was skeptical. But when I saw my original stiff smile transformed into a soft, pleasant one, with my eyes curving upward in a slight toothy grin, it looked beautiful. I praised him. "You're amazing, Simon." The young shop owner casually took a drag from his cigarette and said, "If you hadn't said those 2 words with a deadpan face, maybe I'd believe you more." I moved my lips trying to curve them into a smile, but eventually gave up when I saw the slightly disdainful looks from them. The guy quickly tried to ease the tension, saying, "Such a beautiful photo. Make sure to keep it well." I explained, "It's not a passport photo." He casually responded, "Oh, then what's it for?" "For my obituary." "How soon can you print it? When can I come pick it up?" The guy's eyes turned fearful. Simon, who had been about to start a game in his reclining chair, also furrowed his brow and looked at me. He walked over and stopped the guy from starting the printer, silently sizing me up before asking, "You look young. Did you just turn 18? I blinked. "Just today." His brow furrowed deeper. "Then why are you taking an obituary photo?" "Because I want to die." I didn't say that to avoid more trouble. I just replied, "This is my personal matter. You only need to tell me when I can pick it up or when it'll be ready." But it was clear that neither of them was buying it. The guy, afraid I might do something drastic, threatened to make me call my family to check the situation before printing the photo. I was frustrated. How can there still be such nosy, meddling men? I just wanted to leave. But then I caught sight of the computer screen again when my photo was still smiling gently at me. I couldn't bring myself to go. I sighed and texted my family group chat. "Family, I just took an obituary photo. Could someone call the shop to confirm with them?" The group chat was silent. Half an hour later my brother sent a message. "Take it down right now. You know what today is. And you still deliberately send something like this. Arya, are you trying to make us unhappy on purpose?" I showed no expression, not wanting to waste any more energy explaining. "I just want to take an obituary photo. Today is also my birthday, but it doesn't really matter. My only birthday wish is to have a good-looking obituary photo. That way I can die in peace." My brother fell silent for a few minutes. His tone mixed with anger and disappointment. "Only dead people take obituary photos. If you want to take one, then go die." My fingertips froze on the screen. My limbs slowly grew cold. The next moment, a small line appeared in the group chat. "You have been kicked out of the group by the admin, Dad." The store clerk, seeing me staring blankly at the screen for a long time without moving, thought I was zoning out. He walked over and tapped me, about to speak, but stopped when he saw my reddened eyes. I felt annoyed. Crying is so pathetic, yet I still couldn't control myself. After all this time in front of them, I called my dad again. After 3 attempts, he finally picked up. Before I could speak, his angry lowered voice came through. "Stop calling. Your dad is dead." Then the phone slammed down with a click. The two at the store were momentarily speechless. I shrugged nonchalantly and wiped away the slight moisture from my eyes. "You saw that right." After a deep sigh, I tried once more. "I'm 18 now. I have the right to make my own decisions in this matter." Simon stared at me for a few seconds, thinking, "What about your mom? You should call her too." I fell silent. He unconsciously tried to comfort me. "Your mom gave birth to you and raised you. As a mother, she can't be that cruel. though I really didn't want to admit it. He was wrong. My mom won't allow me to have any of her contact information. Her actions were 10 times more cruel than my dad's or my brother's. Perhaps they hadn't expected my situation to be this complicated. But in the end they agreed to help me. However, before I left the shop, owner Simon seemed to hint, "Keep your phone on. Come pick it up in 2 weeks." 2 weeks? Does it really take that long to make? I was confused. After leaving the photo studio, it was only around 3 o'clock or 4 p.m. And I immediately headed to another destination. As dizziness slowly began to set in, my phone in my pocket buzzed twice. People were walking by on the street, and to avoid fainting in public and scaring them, I quickly leaned against the wall and sat down. After taking 3 deep breaths to steady myself, my hands still trembling and numb, finally calmed down, I took out my phone, still holding on to a sliver of hope. In previous years on my birthday, I would always be kicked out and forbidden to return home. But by the end of the day, despite his hatred for me, my brother would always tell me I could come back home. For a young girl who hasn't yet come of age, being out on the streets for too long was always unsafe. But today, all the hope I had finally shattered when I read the few lines my brother sent. Normally you fake being sick to get sympathy, but today you've turned 18. How can you not be more sensible? Today we're celebrating Alice's birthday. Mom's in a rare good mood. Are you deliberately trying to disgust us with this obituary photo nonsense? Seeing you like this, don't come home today. Don't ruin Alice's day and spoil our mood. You can deal with yourself. Outside, a sharp pain shot through my chest, followed by a numbness in my fingers. Alice, the one he mentioned, is my little sister. We're twins. I've heard neighbors say that when my mother was pregnant with us, though it was difficult, she was happy and excited. Whether it's twins or a boy and a girl, I'll be happy either way. But no one expected that on the day we were born, because both babies were too large, it caused my mother to have a difficult labor. And since I came out first, my sister Alice got stuck inside for too long. When she was born, her face was purple and her breathing stopped shortly after. From that day on, I was labeled as a murderer. My mother cried her heart out holding Alice's lifeless body, and her gaze toward me was filled with hatred, wishing I had been the one to die. I was still just an infant then. Sometimes when I was starving and crying for milk, my mother would scream in rage, threatening to throw me out of the house. Luckily, the nurse arrived just in time to grab me back. For all these years, I've never celebrated my birthday. Because today, the whole family celebrates Alice's birthday. And as the one who caused her death, I don't deserve to be there. They all naturally believe that I'm not worthy of celebrating my birthday. The suffocating memories flooded back. I forced a smile, replying to my brother, "All right. I'll deal with it outside. Whether I live or die, you don't need to worry about me." It seemed like I had caught him off guard, and he felt embarrassed. The chat box showed the message typing for a while before finally sending just 2 words. "You're sick." That's right. I am sick. Just 2 days ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. When I went to collect the report, the doctor looked at me with a pained expression, lamenting how someone so young could have such a disease. And he urged me to stay calm and actively cooperate with the treatment. He said there was still hope. I can't really describe what I felt when I saw the diagnosis. It was as if all the entanglements, resentments, struggles, and pain had finally found a place to settle. I let out a sigh of relief. Finally, I could be free. The elderly doctor spoke sympathetically. "Your parents would be devastated if they knew." I thought he was overestimating things. In reality, this was not without signs. If my parents or my brother had paid any attention to me, if they had noticed something was wrong and taken me for a checkup sooner, perhaps the disease wouldn't have progressed to its advanced stage. But in their eyes, my memory loss was just me being slow-witted and stupid. My headaches and nausea were said to be me faking illness to gain sympathy. When I had my first seizure at school, my father and brother were out of town on business. The teachers made over a dozen phone calls before they managed to get my mother to come. When I saw her, my inner fear was exposed. But before I could even express my grievances, she slapped me across the face. I was still lying in the school clinic in front of the principal, teachers, and my classmates. She pointed at me and shouted, "Can't you just behave for once? Why can't you be quiet? I don't have time to deal with your nonsense." Since then, I've known how deeply my mother hates me. I no longer showed any vulnerability in front of them. But my seizures were beyond my control. They came without warning. Later, when I had a few seizures at home, My father and brother were about to come check on me, but my mother sitting at the dining table eating told them not to bother. They went on eating while I convulsed on the floor. When I finally came to the living room, it was pitch black and my family had already gone to their rooms to sleep. Just like now, my body was once again losing control. In my confused state, I vaguely heard the surrounding noise. Many people were talking, some were calling my name, urging me to wake up. Someone held down my hands and feet, pulling me from the deep sea of struggle and into the light. I opened my eyes, my voice hoarse, and it took a moment to regain my senses. Simon, the owner of the photo studio, was still kneeling beside me. How did you end up here? What happened to me? The crowd around us hadn't dispersed, and everyone was looking at me with worried, anxious faces. Sweat was already beading on Simon's forehead, sweat I had never seen on my family's faces. Suddenly it dawned on me. Oh, my seizure must have happened again. It's pretty embarrassing in the middle of the street. Help me up. An aunt standing nearby worried asked, Miss, what's your parents' number? Do you want us to call them? Yeah, we've already called an ambulance. You should go to the hospital. I declined their good intentions and asked Simon to take me away. As the sky gradually darkened, I sighed while staring out the window. I wouldn't be able to register for organ donation today. Simon sat opposite me, his dark eyes seemingly trying to see through me. Where do you plan to go tonight? Half an hour ago, after I firmly rejected going to the hospital for an examination, Simon reluctantly agreed to take me home. Normally, to avoid trouble, I would pretend to accept his offer, let him take me home, and once he left, I would find another place to stay. But today I had no energy for that. I plainly told him I had no home to go to. As for why Simon was with me, he said it was because my insistence on taking an obituary photo earlier had made him uneasy. After I left the photo studio, he feared I might break my promise and end up going to the river to drown myself. So he followed me from a distance. He didn't expect me to seize up and collapse. So he rushed over to help. I once again showed no emotion and complimented him. You're really a good person. Don't mention it. I was just afraid you might commit suicide and the police would come asking me first. I forced a smile. I see. We stayed in the cafe until closing time. Simon asked again what I planned to do. I'll just find a spot near the Red Cross Society and sit there for the night. He frowned slightly. Why go there? I'm going to register for organ donation tomorrow morning. Why donate? Because I'm afraid my family won't want my body after I die. Even though I'll be gone, I'm still afraid that my body will end up being eaten by stray dogs. That would be truly pitiful. Simon was silent for a moment, then sighed. In the end, he couldn't bear to see me alone and cold in front of some institution, so he grabbed the back of my collar and pulled me back to his home. If you don't mind, I can offer you a place to sleep. I was taken aback. A single man and a woman, what are you going to do to me? He looked slightly disgusted. Don't worry, I'm not that beastly to do anything to a minor. I'm 18. I just turned 18 today. He halted in his stride. It's your birthday today. I pouted, my expression suddenly downcast. Yeah, is that a problem? No problem. You're the birthday girl, so for the next 5 minutes you're the queen. Simon lives with his grandmother. When the old lady saw her grandson bringing a girl home late at night, she was so flustered, she didn't know what to do. When she found out it was my 18th birthday, she insisted on making me a bowl of noodles. When the steaming hot noodles were served, I tried to control my trembling hands under the table. That familiar feeling came back, and I felt a sense of helplessness. I silently afraid that I wouldn't have another seizure right now. Girl, 18 is a good age. After eating this longevity noodle, you'll live a long life. I couldn't hold back the tears. I decided to let them fall silently, trickling down my cheeks. Seeing me cry without touching the noodles, Grandma grew a little uneasy and explained. The bowl and chopsticks are clean. Don't mind them. I just shook my head. Simon teased. Are you waiting for me to feed you? I shook my head again. In the end, I had no choice but to pinch my thigh hard to calm myself down. Slowly, my right hand reached for the chopsticks, trying to grab some noodles. But Grandma noticed. Why are your hands shaking, girl? A sense of despair washed over me. The overwhelming feeling of powerlessness and the frustration of my body being out of control surged. Tears kept falling into my noodles. After a strange silence, Simon suddenly laughed and made an excuse for me. She's just so moved. But in the end, I couldn't finish the bowl of noodles before my brother arrived. Come with me. What's wrong with you running to a man's house at night? Do you have no self-respect? Ellis' face was pale with anger as he grabbed me, trying to drag me away. For years, he had been in business with my father. After spending so much time in the business world, his near-permanent frown exuded a pressure that made people want to kneel and apologize. Stop. But Simon wasn't afraid of him. He stepped forward, his sharp eyes fixed on Lewis, as he directly asked, "Do you even know your sister is sick? You're dragging her so roughly. Can't you see how pale and weak she looks?" Lewis furrowed his brow in silence, then turned to look at me. In the pale moonlight, sweat was dripping from my forehead. My breath was labored and my whole body was trembling. It was clearly not normal, but he still insisted, smiling confidently. "She's sick 8 days out of 10. She's good at playing this kind of game to deceive people like you." Simon's expression froze. He stepped forward, trying to stop Lewis from taking me away. My nose and eyes were smeared with tears and snot, and I looked at Simon with pleading eyes, shaking my head. He was a good person. He didn't need to get involved in this mess. Ella's eyes filled with smugness as he shot Simon a harsh look and turned to leave. "Come on, follow me." I turned back, casting one last glance at Simon and his grandmother at the door and at the half-eaten bowl of noodles on the table. I sighed. I probably wouldn't have anyone celebrate my birthday so seriously again in this lifetime. How regretful. Simon shouted at the door. "Arya, I'll make you another bowl of levity noodles next time. Next time. Next life." That night after midnight, I finally stepped into my home. Ironically, they were celebrating the birthday of a dead child with such grandeur. The entire house was decorated with colorful balloons, streamers, a two-layer cake, and gifts piled on the couch, all for a baby's new clothes. The attention was so high it almost felt like I was the dead Alice. I had once tried to earn some love from Alice, only to be criticized and attacked to the point of exhaustion. I had been foolish to think I could. "Mom's in Alice's room. You can go in yourself. I'll come get you in an hour." The living room was terrifyingly quiet. The only sound came from the room on the left, where occasional muffled sobs of a woman could be heard. Lewis's tone softened a bit, a rarity for him. I numbly glanced at him and walked into the room. On the anniversary of Alice's death, my mother's emotions became more extreme than usual. Sometimes it even led her to self-harm. To prevent her from hurting herself, my father and brother would push me into the room to bear her madness. An hour later, my father finally took the exhausted mother away. Lewis found me curled up, trembling, in a dark corner of the wardrobe. His face showed a flash of pity, and he hesitantly reached out to pull me out. I slapped his hand away and screamed hoarsely, "Don't touch me." He endured for a moment, his tone impatient. "Arya, stop making a scene. If you could solve Mom's emotional problems, you wouldn't even be in this family." My numb senses were suddenly touched by his words. Slowly, I moved my eyes, staring at him in disbelief and despair. "So, it was really me. Stop smiling. You're not allowed to smile." LS saw me forcing a smile, and the disgust on his face became more apparent. He almost lost patience as he grabbed my wrist and dragged me out of the small, dark closet. I had forgotten no one in this house was allowed to see me smile. In the chaos, my knees slammed onto the floor. The pain snapped me back into clarity. I asked him, "Brother, if I were sick, would you take me to the doctor?" "If I died." He interrupted me. "Shut up. Stop saying these nonsense. Haven't we been good enough to you?" I didn't say another word. At 4 a.m., I locked the door to my room. The bathtub was filled with water. I used a fruit knife to cut my left wrist. It was my first time doing it, and my technique wasn't quite right. It took a few tries to get it deep enough. It hurt so much as my body grew colder. A chaotic image of that smiling photo of the deceased and Simon's carefree face appeared in my mind. What a shame. I was about to become someone who broke a promise. In the silent room, the phone rang urgently. I opened my eyes and realized I hadn't died. I closed them again, deciding to ignore it. But the ringing wouldn't stop, growing more persistent with each ring. I sighed and slowly climbed out of the bathtub. But my arms and legs were too weak to stand. I could only crawl slowly on the cold floor. If I ever found out which annoying person called, I swear I'd haunt them even in death. But the phone was on the cabinet, too far for me to reach. Halfway through crawling, I ran out of strength before I lost consciousness. I vaguely saw someone kick open the door and shout my name, "Arya." I didn't die. When I woke up in the hospital room, I was surprised to see that my family there. Well, I guess since I tried to commit suicide in their house, they had to check if I was really dead. But the complex and sorrowful expressions on their faces were so unfamiliar. Simon said he was worried about me, so he followed Louis downstairs to my apartment. When I didn't respond to his messages or pick up his calls, he had the sense to go to my house. When he arrived, he found me unconscious on the floor after cutting my wrist. So the annoying person who called earlier was him. For a moment, I didn't know whether I should call him a good person. Though the rescue was timely, the excessive blood loss had left me extremely weak. After just a few words, I was already exhausted. I closed my eyes and waved my hand. Simon, let them go. I don't want to see them anymore. Having crossed the threshold of death, I had come to terms with everything I used to obsess over. Why my parents didn't love me, why they cared so much about a dead child like Alice. I had tried. I had fought. I had hoped. But if they wouldn't give me that love, then I didn't want it anymore. Louis stepped forward, calling my name with a distressed look. Arya, why didn't you tell us you were sick? Why are you so foolish? Why did you try to kill yourself? He had always cared about his appearance, but this time he came in wearing sleepwear with stubble on his face. I couldn't help but find it funny and stayed silent, not responding. At that moment, my mother, who had been quiet until then, spoke. It was the first time I had ever heard her call my name with such calmness. Arya. Her voice choked. Last night, I apologize for what happened. The doctor said that if we treat your brain tumor, you could live for a few more years. When we go back, we'll find a good doctor to treat you. Okay. I've already lost one daughter. I can't lose another. My mother became more agitated as she spoke. When she mentioned Alice's death, she completely broke down and collapsed into my father's arms, crying uncontrollably. My father, seeing this, couldn't bear it. He added, "Yes, I have money. It doesn't matter how much the treatment costs. As long as our family is together, that's enough." I bitterly smiled, not knowing when the tears had started streaming down my face. I wiped my eyes, but no matter how much I wiped, I couldn't stop. How pathetic. I whispered, "It's too late." My eyes hollow. "It's too late. You say you don't want to lose another daughter, but where were you when I needed you?" Tears poured out uncontrollably. I cried, trembling, shouting at them, feeling the absurdity of their actions. It made me sick. All these years, have you ever treated me like family? Have you? I'm just a murderer in your eyes. What right do I have? What right do you have to say such things? I don't want you anymore. I don't want anything from you. Just leave. Leave. I don't want to see you anymore. My emotions reached a boiling point, and my epilepsy flared up again as I collapsed. I saw my family's terrified faces rushed toward my bedside. It was truly a strange sight. I was rushed into the emergency room. The cancer cells were spreading rapidly. The doctor issued an urgent notice, saying that without treatment, it could erupt at any time. My parents couldn't accept this, and instantly, they looked 10 years older. Louis took on the burden of the family, using all his connections to find a professional medical team for me. But by then I had already escaped the hospital behind their backs. Simon, who had been living a carefree life, found himself dragged into this mess because of me. So that night I spared him when he was away. I took the opportunity to leave the hospital. I went to the Red Cross to register for body donation. When I came out, I didn't expect to be caught by Simon, who had been waiting by the door. He was persistent. His eyes narrowed as he sat on a motorcycle, his long legs on the ground, looking at me with an unfriendly expression. "Where do you think you're going? Get on. I'll take you back to the hospital." I ignored him, keeping my face blank, and walked past him. "I'm not going back. I'm not being treated. Go home. Stop following me." Simon got off the bike and decided to walk alongside me. "Are you really done with life? You haven't even had the bowl of longevity noodles I promised you. Are you trying to make me feel guilty? It's a pity my grandmother always talks about you. You're such an ungrateful girl." I slowly stopped walking, my eyes cold. I pretended to be strong, saying, "Lead the way. I'm only doing this for my grandmother's sake." For the first time, I felt warmth from a stranger who was not blood related to me. I had felt the kindness of a family member from an unfamiliar old lady. But all good things must come to an end. After putting down my chopsticks, I was about to say goodbye to them when Simon spoke again. "There's a new arcade nearby. Do you want to go play?" I was speechless. Simon was too crafty. I could never outmaneuver him. After the arcade, he took me for ice cream. After we finished, he asked if I wanted to go to the beach to chase the sunset. Before I knew it, I was already sitting behind him on his motorcycle speeding along the coastal road. The sky was starting to show the sunset at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the wind blowing in my ears took away my fear. In front of us, the vast orange sunset stretched across the horizon where the sea met the sky. It was magnificent, beautiful, and sorrowful. I knew that I would never see such a beautiful scene again. Simon must have seen through my thoughts. He adjusted my shoulders and looked at me seriously. Arya, why not try living a little longer? You're only 18. You haven't gone to college. Haven't fallen in love. Haven't seen the world. Before 18, you lived for them. But after 18, you should live for yourself. His eyes darkened. Even if it's only for a few more years, don't give up your life for those who don't love you. They don't deserve it, and they have no right. On the way back, I lay on Simon's back feeling dizzy. He teased me with a laugh. Anyway, my grandmother is always wishing for a granddaughter. How about you be my little sister? I'll take good care of you. I weakly retorted. What kind of sister? He paused, then realized what I meant and chuckled. You're so young and you already think like that. I silently tugged at the corner of my mouth, my eyelids heavy. My body had been clearly deteriorating these past few days. I felt exhausted all the time, constantly sleepy, and my memory had gotten worse. 2 cars were parked next to the motorcycle. My family had come looking for me. After realizing I was missing, Louis looked much more worn out with dark circles under his eyes. As soon as my mother saw my pale, weak appearance, she couldn't help but cry and rushed over to touch me. I opened my eyes expressionless and pulled away. Please respect yourself, madam. She was hurt by my words. Her expression wounded as she cried and apologized. It was all my fault. Alice's death hit me hard, and I couldn't accept it for years. Whenever midnight comes, I can still hear Alice's small body crying for me. I can't sleep at night. I couldn't be at peace with you because I feared Alice would come into my dreams and ask me why she had to die. The deep grievances and pain in her heart came pouring out, and my mother collapsed to the ground crying. She repeatedly said that she was too foolish, that she was being punished by the heavens for losing 2 daughters. Arya, give me another chance to change. I turned my gaze away. What was the point of saying these things now? I said to her. It's not related to me. My mother, burdened by Alice's untimely death, had placed all the blame on me. To find peace, my father and brother, more concerned about my mother's emotions, forced me to bear the burden without resistance. It wasn't that they had no choice. It was simply that they didn't love me. My father, the family manager, added me back into the family group chat. My mother also took the initiative to add me on WeChat. As soon as I joined the group, they immediately flooded the chat with welcome messages and celebratory emojis, as if to celebrate my return to the family group. I quickly typed a message and decisively left the group. Your daughter is dead. Don't contact me again. Returning to the friend request page, a new message appeared. Arya, I'm Mom. Please accept my request. I immediately replied. I don't have a mother. Then I blocked and deleted all 3 of them in one go, cutting off all contact. After doing all that, I sighed and said to Simon, now no one will come to collect my body. Good thing I registered for body donation earlier. Simon flicked my forehead lightly. Am I not a person? I started chemotherapy. I admit Simon's words had moved me. I was 18 that year. Just finished the college entrance exams. My grades weren't great, but I could still go to university. And if I were lucky, I might even meet an outstanding guy and fall in love. I just didn't know if Simon would break my legs first. Because of the treatment, I had to shave my head. My scalp felt round and cold. Simon thought it was cute, but I thought it looked ugly. Several times when I lay down to sleep at night, I secretly wiped my tears, mourning the loss of my hair. The next day, he bought me 7 hats in different colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple, and made me wear a different one every day. I really appreciated his gesture. Radiation therapy was tough. I spent most of my days in a daze, constantly sleeping, and I left the hospital room less and less. I lost weight rapidly, becoming so thin that Simon teased me, saying I was too slim. I gave a half-hearted smile as he praised me for smiling more. You look better than the photoshopped ones. I asked him about the progress of my posthumous photo. He evasively told me that the guy at the store had gone on vacation and that it would be delayed. You liar. Since I had blocked all contact with the family, they no longer dared to provoke me. They knew I didn't want to see them. So they only cooked meals and waited outside my hospital room every day. But I never let them in. One afternoon, as the alarm sounded and I was rushed to the operating room, the doctor's face was grave. A critical condition notice was issued. My mother, losing all composure, knelt in front of the operating room door, repeatedly praying for me not to be in danger. She held a protective charm that they had gone all night to get from a temple in a neighboring city. My father knelt next to her, and Louis, looking lost, stood by, no longer carrying the confident air he once had. I don't know how, but my soul seemed to float out of the operating room. Seeing this scene, there was no ripple of emotion in my heart. I searched around for Simon and eventually found him in the fire escape stairwell. His face was solemn, a stark contrast to the usual carefree attitude he had when he was with me. He was holding a cigarette between his fingers, but he wasn't smoking it, letting it burn quietly. So he was also afraid I might die. In his other hand, he was holding something, repeatedly looking at it. I leaned closer, slightly stunned. It was my posthumous photo, made into a tiny inch-sized version. It wasn't in black and white as I had imagined, but in vivid, bright, saturated colors. In the photo, I looked radiant and beautiful. Before I was 18, my life had been as dull and oppressive as a funeral photo. But now I realized that my life could have been this bright, this dazzling, this full of light. When I floated back into the hallway, I saw a familiar face. It was my second-class teacher, Ms. Kathy. She had been on her way to get water and had overheard my name being mentioned. When she saw my parents and then noticed the surgery room light on, she understood everything. From them, she learned more about me. Arya is a solitary child. She never smiled at school. Not only did her classmates avoid her, but some teachers didn't like her either. They even privately called her the Stoic. I only understood her after getting to know her better, and it all goes back to you as her parents. Do you know that she on several occasions went up to the rooftop of the teaching building without any warning? She would sit there for hours. Everyone thought she was going to jump off the building, and the police and firefighters had to come several times. I called you to come to the school and talk about Arya's psychological problems, but each time you either said she was just playing around or made excuses about work and never came. Even when she had episodes at school, you never came. Well, you did once. Ms. Kathy suddenly pointed at my mother, who was crying and nearly fainting. You slapped her once. She sighed deeply. Honestly, is this how you parents act? Stop, please, just stop. It's our fault. All of it is our fault. We owe Arya an apology. My father, clutching his head, cried bitterly, unable to bear any more blows. Louis, struggling with guilt, kept trying to console them. Eventually, a nurse came over to warn the family not to make noise, and the scene became chaotic. The entire summer, I underwent chemotherapy 3 times each session, lasting 3 to 5 days. Only then did my condition finally stabilize, though barely. I had lost so much weight that Simon could easily lift me with one hand. Since Simon's grandmother found out that I was sick and hospitalized, she had been painstakingly preparing chicken soup and meals for me every day. My mother also made food for me, but I refused to eat it. For that, Grandma Simon was quite proud. The girl only eats what I make. She doesn't like your mother thinking she isn't fit to be a parent. What good would an apology do now? Could a single apology undo the harm caused over these 18 years? Grandma's old, please tell her not to come every day with food. I'm worried she'll wear herself out. The food was actually delicious, but my mouth was bitter and I couldn't taste anything. Simon raised an eyebrow. I've tried talking to her, but she won't listen. A wave of discomfort began to rise in my stomach. I frowned, slowly swallowing the food in my mouth, and quietly said, "Can you go ask the nurse when I can be discharged?" Simon didn't think much of it and nodded before heading out. Once he left, the nausea hit me like a wave, and before I could even grab the trash can from under the bed, everything I had just eaten came up. I asked the nurse, said some monk voice, abruptly stopped. I remained motionless by the edge of the bed, and he looked down at the mess on the floor, immediately understanding. He expertly grabbed some cleaning supplies and began tidying up. You were purposely trying to get rid of me, weren't you? I didn't move. He gently lifted me, noticing my tear-streaked face with a helpless and somewhat amused expression. He said, "Why are you crying?" I was sobbing uncontrollably. I made the floor dirty. I wanted to throw up in the trash can, but I didn't make it in time. I'm really useless. I'm sorry. He gently wiped my face with a tissue. If you really feel sorry, don't push me away next time, okay? On the day I was discharged, Simon wrapped me up tightly. Louis, along with his parents, was waiting at the hospital entrance holding bouquets and fruit baskets. As soon as we stepped out, they carefully approached and asked if I could come back home with them. We've cleared everything related to Alice, and we've cleaned your room. Come home with Mom and Dad. Arya, I roundly went into my room. Yes, at those words, everyone was reminded of the time I had tried to slit my wrists in that room. Then you must have seen the letter I left cutting ties with you on the night I had decided to end it all. I had left them that letter. It was my way of severing the relationship. In a way, it was my final act of not dying. Louis's mother looked shocked and confused, clearly not understanding what I was referring to. Only Louis turned pale, clearly having kept this from them. I couldn't be bothered to pursue it or argue anymore. I've told you your daughter is dead. Don't come bother my life anymore. Louis, overwhelmed by my resolute attitude, shouted after me. Arya, what will it take for you to forgive us? I slowly turned around, speaking each word clearly. I will never forgive you. When a person is shattered once, there is still hope. But when they are shattered repeatedly, there is no longer any expectation. The university I applied to was local, and I was enrolled in the program for modern mortuary science and management, commonly known as embalming. I hadn't told anyone about this. It wasn't until Simon accompanied me for my enrollment that he learned about it. Aren't you going to ask why? Though it was still autumn, my classmates wore nothing but thin jackets, while I had already put on a knitted hat and scarf. I blinked and looked at Simon, knowing that this profession was generally seen as unpopular and met with opposition by most people. Simon smiled. Actually, I wanted to ask. Did you want to talk about it? What's there to hide? I first became aware of the profession of an ember after being verbally attacked by others in the family. My mother wouldn't let me smile because she saw me as a murderer, believing that my smile hurt her eyes. My father also forbade me from smiling, telling me to be sensible and not upset her. My brother hated me, saying I only ever had a cold expression that brought bad luck. Because of this, my classmates gave me various nicknames. Stoic, faceless freak, little monster. You should just become an ember and deal with dead people since you never smile anyway. I walked slowly beside Simon on the campus path, feeling the rare sense of ease from the lively atmosphere around us. Later, I really did look up the profession. I continued honestly. At first I was scared, but then I thought, since I'm going to die anyway, I realize there's nothing to be afraid of with the dead. And besides, if I don't smile, no one will call me a freak anymore. Simon interrupted me for the first time, his tone serious. Smiling is everyone's right. If you want to, you can smile anytime. I didn't argue with him, only letting my eyes narrow slightly, a faint smile forming on my face. Now, I think this profession has its greatness. Everyone will die. Embalmers are the angels who help the deceased travel to the afterlife with dignity. And if I'm lucky, without realizing it, we had reached the administrative building. I looked up at the grand, imposing structure and spoke deeply. I will become one of those angels. Side story: Simon's perspective. The day after Arya's midterm exams ended in her first year of college, she hurried back home excited. It was my 26th birthday, and she said that since I celebrated her 18th birthday, she couldn't possibly miss celebrating the first birthday I would have after we met. The weather had begun to cool down by then. Arya's body had always been weak, and even though she wrapped herself up tightly from head to toe, her palms were still ice cold. It took quite a while before I could warm them up enough. She insisted on cooking me longevity noodles herself. This little troublemaker, did she not know how frail her body was? After just a little movement, she was already feeling exhausted. In the end, I made 3 bowls of noodles. Grandma sat on the reclining chair laughing and watching us mess around. Arya said she hadn't had such delicious noodles in a long time and had missed this taste while she was at school. She smiled and said she would come back once a week from now unless she stay away for too long and lose her own room. Don't worry, your room is being personally supervised by Grandma. No one dares to touch it. Eventually she got tired and began to lose strength as she spoke. She finally fell asleep right on the table. Grandma, fondly teasing, said she looked like a little piglet eating her fill and then falling asleep. But she slept for a long time. Long enough that Grandma started feeling something was wrong. No matter how she tried to wake her, she couldn't. Trembling, she asked me, "Simon, what's wrong with Arya?" The noodles in the bowl had already gone cold. I stared at Arya's peaceful and serene face for a long while before I slowly spoke. She's just too tired. Grandma, let her sleep. The day I received the news of Arya's death, the family could hardly accept it. They were adamant about taking her body back for the funeral. But I refused. The Red Cross had sent specialists to take her body away. That man Lewis tried to argue with them. It was then I learned that Arya had donated her body. Her parents found out and both of them collapsed to the floor. Arya was so cruel. She didn't even leave her body for us. Completely broke down, muttering to himself continuously. I stopped paying attention to them and returned to the shop. I still hadn't printed that photo. It felt unlucky. This time I printed it myself in color. I didn't give it to the family. I kept it at home. In the days that followed, I fell back into my routine, dividing my time between home and the shop. But I heard that Lou's mother seemed to have lost her mind, becoming increasingly erratic. She would run to the street every day, grabbing people and asking if they had seen her daughter. The one who didn't smile. The one named Arya. Eventually, she was sent to a psychiatric hospital by Lou and his father. One afternoon, I was lying in the rocking chair playing a game. A gust of wind blew, causing the bell hanging at the door to ring. I looked up, and for a moment I was reminded of a question Arya had once asked me. Arya, Simon, I'm just a stranger to you, just one of many customers. Why did you keep following me that day? Me? You might have forgotten, but I've never forgotten. On that day she had been about to leave, but then she suddenly turned back. The bell at the door had jingled. The way you looked at me that day, standing at the door, made me feel like you were asking for help. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.